In a world where power comes with great risks, protecting the lives of influential leaders has become a sophisticated operation. The stakes couldn't be higher. Assassination attempts, political rivalries, and public unrest mean that every moment must be calculated and secure. From leaders guarded by entire military units to those relying on secretive intelligence networks, the methods of protection reveal fascinating stories. Some leaders walk openly among crowds with elite security by their side, while others live behind layers of secrecy and surveillance. Which leaders have the most advanced systems in place? How does their protection reflect the challenges they face? Let's explore the incredible measures taken to secure the most powerful individuals on the planet. Kim Jong-un, North Korea. If Kim Jong-un is in charge of a country, it is one of the most hidden and heavily armed in the world. People who work for the supreme leader of North Korea make sure that he is safe from both internal and international threats. The 100,000-person force called the Guard Command is what keeps Kim Jong-un safe. This unit isn't just for show. They're in charge of keeping an eye on his properties and making sure his family is safe. A personal security unit is part of his inner circle and is almost always visible at high-profile events. You may have seen the striking pictures of his bodyguards running next to his armored limousine, showing their loyalty and alertness at the same time. Kim's safety doesn't end there, though. North Korea also keeps 2,000 soldiers in Pyongyang as a rapid reaction force in case someone tries to take over the government. At the same time, a special communications unit keeps his nuclear weapon orders safe and free from outside interference. Everyone is being watched over by this complex plan, which makes it almost impossible for anyone to get close to him, let alone hurt him. His security may seem like too much, but it shows how unstable his rule is. Kim Jong-un's security is both about staying alive and proving who is in charge. He is known for being unpredictable, and his country is based on strict rules. The Saudi Arabian Mohammed bin Salman. The political scene in Saudi Arabia has changed because of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS. But with great power comes great duty and risk. MBS has had problems inside and outside of his country in the past few years, which is why he built a strong security network. MBS has changed his own security system himself, which is different from many leaders who take over old ones. He has carefully put loyalists in important military and security roles, making sure that he is in charge of all of Saudi Arabia's defense. He is in charge of all of the kingdom's armed troops, from the Royal Guard to the Air Force. His entourage is just as amazing, with high-tech armored cars and a well-trained security team. The Crown Prince's life is often very fancy, but his security team is very strict and doesn't mess around. They have access to high-tech surveillance equipment and quick response options, which keeps MBS safe in even the most unpredictable scenarios. But his safety is also affected by the way things work in politics. There are rumors of family problems and opposition to MBS's rise to power, so his safety measures aren't just for threats from outside the country. They're also meant to keep people from speaking out against him inside the country. His method of security is both unique and complicated by the fact that it has two main goals. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Turkey. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey is no stranger to trouble, and his safety shows how hard it is to run a country with a dangerous political climate. Erdogan may not have the biggest security team on this list, but they're known for being very good at what they do and very loyal. Erdogan's 60-person security team is called the Mustache Shears, which sounds funny, but there's nothing funny about how they do their jobs. These big men with mustaches have shown their loyalty many times, often by moving quickly and cruelly. When Erdogan went to Washington, D.C. in 2017, his guards were caught on tape fighting with protesters, which became very public. The video showed them physically separating the crowd, which caused international problems but made them even more determined. Erdogan has more than just protection to keep him safe. Bulletproof cars are in his convoy, and local authorities work together closely to clear roads and keep venues safe. Modern monitoring systems that keep an eye on possible threats are also helpful to the president. Erdogan's defense is made even more difficult by Turkey's political situation. Pro- and anti-Erdogan groups are very angry with each other, so protests are always a possibility. That's why his security team is so important for keeping things calm. Alpha Condé, Guinea. Alpha Condé became Guinea's first president who was chosen by the people in 2010. But his path has not been easy. In 2011, he almost lost his presidency during a dramatic attempt to kill him that put his security team to the test. During the attack, Gunmen with automatic guns and rocket-propelled grenades broke into Conde's home early in the morning on July 19th. His guards fought back against the attackers for 2 hours in a fight that felt more like a scene from an action movie than real life. Conde miraculously came out unhurt because his guards were quick on their feet and brave. Conde's safety has only gotten better since that terrible day. He has made his team more alert and is now using both local and foreign knowledge to protect the president. Any possible threats are stopped before they happen with the help of surveillance systems, armored convoys, and strategic cooperation. But there are some problems with Conde's protection. In 2016, his guards got into a fight with a reporter who was taking pictures of the president leaving a public event. For this event, brought up the conflict in Guinea between freedom of the press and safety worries. Angela Merkel, Germany. Angela Merkel led Germany for more than 16 years. She wasn't known for public shows of power, but her approach to security was a model of tact and efficiency. Merkel's defense was carefully thought out to match her public image as practical and humble, but don't think that being simple means she is weak. The Federal Criminal Police Office, BKA, a highly skilled and well-known for its accuracy unit, was in charge of keeping Merkel safe while she was in office. Mercedes-Benz armored cars with the newest safety features like bulletproof glass and run-flat tires were in her convoy. But Merkel often chose quiet defense over the dramatic displays that many world leaders make. One thing that made Merkel's safety stand out was that she liked to fit in. Her team made sure she was always available without putting her safety at risk, whether she was at summits or just walking around public places. This balance showed how she led. She was calm, grounded, and focused. This was not an easy time for Merkel. Strong action was needed because of well-known protests and the rise of extremist dangers around the world. The BKA used cutting-edge surveillance and intelligence gathering to stay ahead of possible threats. Even though Merkel is quiet, her method made her one of Europe's safest leaders. Xi Jinping, China. One of the safest people in the world is Xi Jinping, who is president of China and head of the Communist Party. Being in charge of the world's most populous country comes with a lot of responsibilities and risks that no one else faces. His security team handles these issues with military precision. The Central Security Bureau, a secretive group whose job it is to protect top Chinese officials, is at the center of Xi Jinping's security. This elite group has more than 8,000 members, including units that are trained in spying, counterterrorism, and responding to crises. Their presence is so quiet that many details of what they do are kept secret. When Xi goes to public events, his security turns cities into fortresses. One striking example is his trip to Hong Kong in 2017. During that trip, whole streets were blocked off, planes flew over, and more than 11,000 police officers were put to work. Even blocks that could be moved were brought in to make sure he was safe at all times. Xi's team is also on the lookout for digital risks. Because cyber warfare is becoming more common, his defense includes advanced cybersecurity, means to stop hacking and sabotage. His safety is a lot like China's overall philosophy. It is all-encompassing, strong, and unshakable. Vladimir Putin, Russia. Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, is one of the most watched leaders in the world, and his security is just as tight as his job. His safety methods cover a lot more than just physical safety. They also include mental and strategic ones. The Presidential Security Service, PSS, a top-level agency with a lot of power and funding, is in charge of protecting Putin. They start their work with careful planning and danger analysis long before Putin shows up in public. Every place he goes is checked out, locked down, and watched to make sure nothing is missed. The Psychological Security Department within the PSS is one of the special ways that Putin is protected. This specialized team looks into possible threats, focusing on the mental health of people who might be dangerous. The team can avoid risks by knowing what drives them and how they act in certain situations. Putin's personal moves are closely watched and kept secret most of the time. Even the things he does every day are planned to throw possible enemies off. He travels in a convoy of armored vehicles, and advanced surveillance systems and armed guards keep an eye on his public events. There were rumors of a private army in 2016, which made people even more interested in Putin's safety. These claims, whether they are true or not, show how far Russia will go to protect its boss. Ali Khamenei, Iran. Ali Khamenei is Iran's supreme leader, so his safety is strongly connected to the country's complicated political and ideological landscape. Not only does his safety protect him from physical harm, but it also adds to the metaphorical power of his position. Keeping Khamenei safe is the job of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, a strong military group whose only goal is to protect the government. Specialized groups in the IRGC work hard to keep him safe, showing unwavering loyalty and watchfulness. Their defenses include both old-fashioned security methods and high-tech monitoring systems that are meant to find and stop threats. In 1981, Khamenei almost died in an attempt on his life, which was a chilling warning of the dangers he faced. A bomb that looked like a tape player went off, hurting him badly and paralyzing one arm for life. This event changed the rules for his protection, making sure that nothing is missed. Khamenei rarely goes out in public these days, and when he does, it is closely watched. There are careful checks for big groups of people, and his routes are a secret until the very end. The tensions in the region are reflected in his security detail. Ideological and geopolitical rivalries make his safety a top concern. Tokyo Mayor Shinzo Abe. Shinzo Abe was Japan's longest-serving prime minister. He was a strong leader known for having a clear strategy. Japan is known for being very precise, and his security showed that. It was both efficient and nice, which is something that only Japan does. During his time in office, Abe was protected by a highly trained group that could grow as needed. Up to 9,000 people were sent to the area to keep it safe during high-profile visits, like those to sensitive shrines or international meetings. Even though there were so many people there, Abe's security team had a good reputation for being polite. For instance, during a motorcade on a highway in 2016, security guards kindly motioned for other cars to change lanes instead of telling them what to do. Abe's convoy was a sign of how advanced Japan's technology is. Protective cars with high-tech communication systems kept him safe, and drones and other surveillance tools let him know what was going on around him. But there were also problems under Abe's rule. Because he was a well-known person in international relations, he was criticized and protested, which made his team very alert all the time. His tragic death in 2022, after he had stepped down as president, showed how important it is to always be alert, even for past leaders. Future Japanese leaders will probably change how they handle security based on Abe's impact and the lessons they learned from his tragic death. Queen Elizabeth II, United Kingdom. Queen Elizabeth II, who was one of the most beloved monarchs in history, spent her reign balancing custom and progress. This was mirrored in her security, which was both steeped in history and flexible enough to deal with modern threats. Their job was to keep her safe. The Royal Protection Squad was created in 1983. The Queen and her family were always safe with this special group of Scotland Yard officers, many of whom had been trained by the Special Air Service, SAS. The squad worked quietly, fitting in with public events while keeping a security perimeter that could not be broken through. Queen Elizabeth's safety wasn't just dependent on people being alert. Custom armored plating, bulletproof windows, and a unique air filtration system were put into the monarch's cars, especially her Bentley State limousine, to protect them from chemical attacks. Even though her movements looked casual and ceremonial, they were carefully planned, with advanced teams and decoy vehicles guarding every path. A lot of money was spent every year to keep the royal family safe, about $27 million. Still, this spending was seen as necessary because of threats in the past. 5 people tried to kill Queen Victoria, and Prince Charles famously used a waterproof warning watch when he was threatened with a harpoon gun in the Mediterranean. Queen Elizabeth looked out for more than just her own safety. She also wanted to keep the throne stable. The United States' Donald Trump. The time that Donald Trump was U.S. president added a new level of scrutiny and complexity to security for the president, which caused costs to skyrocket to levels that had never been seen before. As one of the most divisive politicians of our time, Trump's defense showed the unique problems his government faces. When Trump took office, it was very hard for the U.S. Secret Service to do its job of protecting the president and his family. Taxpayers spent a lot of money on his trips to Mar-a-Lago, which was nicknamed the Winter White House. For each trip, patrol boats, air monitoring, and more local police were needed. The Trump Tower in New York was also hard to deal with. Daily security costs hit about $500,000 while First Lady Melania Trump and their son Barron lived there. Along with police barriers, security checkpoints, and more armed staff, the building turned into a fortress. On the road, Trump rode in a Cadillac limousine called the Beast, which was heavily armored and could handle chemical and explosive strikes. Security guards even watched his food to make sure he didn't get sick, and staff members carried his blood type in case of an emergency. The cost of Trump's security went beyond his time in office. Because his kids often had to go on business trips abroad, they made the Secret Service's job harder. One example is Eric Trump's trip to Uruguay in 2017 that cost $100,000 just for the hotel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel. There are many conflicts in the area, and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been threatened from many sides. The high level of security in the country, with many layers of modern technology and a strict focus on safety, is reflected in his protection. Netanyahu is protected by the Shin Bet, which is Israel's own security force. This top-level security company specializes in fighting terrorists and keeping famous people safe. They make sure that the Prime Minister and his family are safe from any danger. Their ways include keeping an eye on them 24 hours a day, sending out secure convoys, and carefully planning their routes for every public appearance. A lot of protests happen when people don't agree with Netanyahu's policies. In 2020, thousands of protesters met outside of his official home and asked him to step down. To handle these situations, security barriers were put up, and more staff were sent to keep protesters and fans from fighting. There are high-tech armored trucks in Netanyahu's convoy that can protect against both explosive and ballistic attacks. The Prime Minister's home is also protected by modern surveillance systems and underground bunkers. There was a particularly difficult protest where protesters used pepper spray and counter-protesters got violent. This event showed that Netanyahu's security team has two jobs: to protect the boss and keep things calm when things get heated. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India. Narendra Modi is the Prime Minister of the biggest democracy in the world, which means he is under a lot of pressure and duty. India has one of the safest places in the world to live because of its diverse people and complicated politics. The Special Protection Group, SPG, a highly trained team based in the US, is in charge of Modi's safety, the Secret Service. The SPG protects Modi 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and goes with him on trips, public appearances, and secret meetings. Agents are equipped with modern weapons, surveillance tools, and communication systems, and they are known for being ready to act in seconds. Modi's public appearances are carefully planned. Whole streets are closed off, and SPG agents search the area for threats a long time before they happen. His group includes armored cars like the BMW 7 Series and Range Rover Sentinel, which can both handle gunshots and explosions. One amazing thing about Modi's security is that it can be changed to fit the needs of the area. When he goes to rural areas where infrastructure might not support high-tech measures, his team comes up with creative ways to keep him safe without hurting the environment. Even with the SPG's help, Modi is still a controversial figure. In the past few years, there have been more protests and threats, which makes his security team even more important. Emmerson Mnangagwa, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's president, Emmerson Mnangagwa, is in charge of a country that is in a lot of political and economic trouble. Robert Mugabe was removed from power by a military coup in 2017, and Mnangagwa took over. Since then, he has had a lot of problems with both running the country and keeping himself safe. His highly armored convoy, which includes a luxury limousine and a fleet of fast motorcycles, is the first line of defense. In Zimbabwe, this motorcade is a common sight. Its purpose is to show power and keep the president safe while he travels. Security troops clear the way for him to move, and they often close whole streets to stop ambushes. There were claims of graft and election fraud before Mnangagwa took office, which caused a lot of disagreement in Zimbabwe's politics. Protests against his leadership have sometimes turned violent, which is why his security team puts crowd control ahead of protecting individuals. His official home is protected by high-tech surveillance equipment and elite units of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. Because of the country's troubled political past, these teams are trained to deal with both normal threats and possible coups. Unstable economies have only raised the stakes. With prices going up and resources running out, Mnangagwa's leadership is still controversial, so keeping him safe is very important for keeping power. Emmanuel Macron, France. Emmanuel Macron is the president of France. France has a long history of government change and social unrest. Since Macron is in charge of a country that is often in the news around the world, his security must be strong and flexible enough to handle any situation. Macron is protected by the Groupe de Sécurité de la Présidence de la République, GSPR, a high-level unit trained to keep the French president safe. The GSPR is made up of 60 highly skilled people who work together with the national police and the gendarmerie to provide a full security network. Macron's staff is concerned about more than just his own safety. They are also looking into threats to national security as a whole. France has a past of protests and terrorist attacks, which makes Macron's public appearances extra dangerous. The Yellow Vest riots and other events put his safety to the test. During these protests, his convoy was blocked, and things got worse until they turned aggressive. The GSPR reacted with careful planning, using surveillance drones and crowd control to make sure he was safe. Macron is safe from more than just physical danger. The Élysée Palace, where he lives, has state-of-the-art tracking systems, and cybercrime teams keep an eye on online threats. France's S-List, a method for keeping an eye on possible security risks, makes him even safer. Macron always has to find a balance between making things easier for people to get to and making things safer. This shows how hard it is to run a modern society. Paul Biya. Cameroon has been led by Paul Biya since 1982. He's one of the longest-serving leaders in Africa. During his almost 40-year rule, he has dealt with political problems and always put people's safety first. Biya has some of the best security in all of Africa. A fleet of fast bikes, Mercedes-Benz S-classes, and Land Cruisers make up his motorcade, which is led by an armored Range Rover Sentinel. This impressive convoy keeps him safe on both domestic and international trips with routes that have been carefully planned and are highly guarded. They tried to take down Biya in 1984, which was a turning point in the history of his security. During this failed uprising, presidential guards fought hard to keep him safe, which showed how important his security team is. Since then, his safety measures have changed, now using cutting-edge technology and top-notch staff. Biya's home as president is a fortress. It has a highly armed security guard around it and surveillance systems that can pick up on any possible threat. For his own safety, he has security who are trained to act quickly and accurately in an emergency. But Biya's longer rule has not been without debate. Tensions have grown because of claims of authoritarianism and public unrest, which makes his security more important than ever. Canada's Justin Trudeau. As Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau is protected because the country doesn't face many threats. However, that doesn't mean he isn't safe. In fact, Trudeau's security team has changed to deal with new threats, especially as his fame has spread around the world. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, has a special unit called the Protective Policing Service that is in charge of keeping Trudeau safe. This group makes sure he is safe when he goes on public appearances, foreign trips, and even just for fun. Trudeau's friendly personality puts him in close contact with the public a lot of the time, which means that his team has to stay alert while keeping a low profile. Trudeau's convoy includes SUVs that are armored and cars that have high-tech communication systems. Even though Canada's politics are usually stable, events like the armed intrusion at Rideau Hall in 2020, in which a man with a gun tried to face the Prime Minister, show how important strong security is. The things that keep him safe also include digital risks. At the back of the scenes, cybersecurity teams protect him from hacking attempts and campaigns spreading false information to hurt his leadership. Trudeau's team is still having a hard time finding the right balance between safety and ease. His frequent interactions with people show how friendly he is, but they need to be coordinated all the time to keep risks from happening. Joe Biden, USA. The January 6th Capitol riots put a shadow over Joe Biden's inauguration, making it an unusual start to his presidency. These events had a huge impact on how his security was handled, which made him one of the safest leaders in U.S. history. The U.S. Secret Service is in charge of Biden's safety and uses some of the world's most advanced security methods. His group, led by The Beast, a custom-built Cadillac limousine, is made to survive chemical attacks, bullets, and bombs. This armored vehicle is accompanied by a fleet of support cars and motorbikes that make sure he can get where he needs to go quickly and safely. The fact that Air Force One has countermeasure equipment and can refuel in mid-air adds another layer of security to his trips around the world. On the ground, monitoring drones and sniffer dogs make public events safer, and police officers watch the crowds for possible threats. For Biden's own safety, spy reports are always being sent to him. Threats are evaluated in real time by teams in the Secret Service and other agencies, which change their plans as things change. Biden is being watched more closely because of the tense political situation in the U.S., where polarization has made risks higher. His safety isn't just about keeping one person safe, it's a sign of how strong American democracy is. Andrés Manuel López Obrador, Mexico. As the President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador commonly known as AMLO, is a leader who faces unique security challenges due to the country's ongoing battle with organized crime and internal political unrest. Despite these threats, AMLO has famously taken an unorthodox approach to his security. Unlike most leaders with large elite protection units, AMLO disbanded the Presidential Guard upon taking office in 2018. Instead, he opted for a small team of unarmed assistants, claiming he wanted to lead by example and stay closer to the Mexican people. This decision has sparked intense debate, as Mexico's high levels of violence and cartel influence make the president a constant target. However, AMLO's security does not rely solely on proximity to the public. Local law enforcement and military forces are often deployed during his public appearances to ensure his safety, even if they operate in the background. His vehicles and convoy are closely monitored, and intelligence teams stay alert to any immediate threats. This unconventional approach to protection highlights AMLO's belief in transparency and accessibility, though critics argue it leaves him vulnerable. In a country where violence against political figures is a serious concern, AMLO's minimalist security strategy is as controversial as it is symbolic. Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has become a symbol of strength and defiance in the war with Russia that is still going on. Because he is the leader of a country at war, he is protected in ways that have never been seen before. This is because he faces more dangers every day. The State Protection Service of Ukraine, which is part of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, is in charge of Zelensky's safety. But since Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022, other countries have also sent experts and resources to help keep him safe. Not only is his team supposed to protect him from direct threats, they are also supposed to make sure he can continue to lead during a war. In the early stages of the war, Zelensky said that Russian troops were trying to kill him and his family. To protect him from these dangers, his security team grew a lot, adding armored cars, secret safe houses, and 24-hour surveillance. His whereabouts and plans are often kept secret until the very end, so no one knows what he is doing. When Zelensky goes on public appearances, they are carefully planned. His team uses a mix of local and allied information to keep him safe, whether he is on the front lines or speaking to the whole world. Even though there are risks, Zelensky stays out in public and shows strength and unity, which is very important for his people's confidence. Keeping him safe shows how hard it is to lead a country at war. Not only do we need to protect one person, we also need to protect the symbol of Ukraine's freedom. In a war where leadership and morale are just as important as combat power, protecting Zelensky is essential for the survival of the whole country. That's the end of today's video. If you've made it this far, be sure to watch more videos on the channel.